What's up guys, CJ here, and this is going to be the patch 7.6 notes review and the GALIO Champion Spotlight look over, I guess. So I've only touched upon it mildly, don't really know which one of these are the ones that tell you his skills. Actually, that would be on League of Legends GALIO Wiki, right? But we're gonna go over the patch first. So Aatrox, not actually Draven, blah blah blah, is now Hellbent, not Blood Rush. Reviving from his passive Aatrox now is full of Blood Well. That's actually really good, because that was an issue that came up a lot, was that you just came up and you didn't have any attack speed on an attack speed champion, and so that's pretty important. Aatrox no longer receives his third hit from Blood Price after reviving. Okay. Aatrox passive tooltip rewritten. Health up. So 43 health is actually a lot. If you think about 43 health in terms of, the total health pool of 537, that's like somewhere like 5 to 8% of health increase on the base level. So that's actually insane. Makes his level 1, level 2, level 3 pretty strong, I would say. So Q cooldown down. Okay. W base damage up. So I think overall these are good changes. This especially is a really good change to early abusive Aatrox. That being said, that I would constitute that like a cheese, but it could work out, right? And I think that overall Aatrox still has the same problems as being a bruiser in a ranger full tank meta. So, but overall, step in the right direction. It won't change too much though. Bonus health up, stacks up. Sure, I guess he needs some. I kind of like. I don't know. I guess Cho'Gath does have a lot of control in the mid lane, honestly. Sometimes you just outpush way earlier against certain champions. Cast range increase, that's good for Fiddle. If drain target dies before channel completes, the rain version is applied as cooldown reduction. So these are obviously both buffs, right? But the question is, why doesn't Fiddle work right now? And I don't think it's a fair assessment of Fiddle right now, because I think Fiddle right now is okay. It's just that the previous fear mechanic was extremely broken because the fear direction was random, and now that it almost always fears away from you, the fear sort of has anti-synergy. Even though it does decrease your move speed, it kind of has anti-synergy with Fiddle W. And that's basically the innate issue of Fiddle. Other than that, I feel like Fiddle fits pretty decently into mid-game scenarios, obviously with ult. It's just that with Fiddle, you're kind of pigeonholed into certain build paths. Because let's say you don't go Zhonya's, your ult and you get reverse bursted down, and if you do go some type of Riley's, tank Abyssal with, I don't know, maybe some armor for, maybe you just have a Seekers or something. It's just that you don't survive long enough because you're effectively playing like, you're like the AP equivalent of a Lee Sin that built like warriors into tank, right? You're not tanky enough, but you're just somewhat tanky, right? That's the same thing with Fiddle. So you're kind of pigeonholed into the scenario where you kind of have to build Zhonya's. And when you do finish your Runic Echoes and Zhonya's, the spike isn't high enough. Like, you do have a good teamfight situation, but you're not doing the damage necessary. Then again, you're a jungler, so you don't need to do that much damage, but you're just going to do... You're going to do AoE damage that's less instead of, let's say you're playing Elise or Evelyn, instead of more damage on one person. And when you look at that comparison, you're thinking, okay, well, would I rather burst one person out, or would I rather take like 30 to 50% HP from everyone in my ults? And I don't know, it's just easier to opt into the one shot, because taking one person off the map is so much more important, or extremely important. Like, it's comparatively important for Fiddle. Additionally, Fiddle can't really opt into the level 2 jungle plays, and is blue reliant, which is kind of hurts junglers in general for being blue reliant because mid laners need it. Alright, Gnar. Regen up, regen, growth stat up, health regen, and mega down. Alright, so you're rewarded more health regen for staying in range form. Now cue another spell. So I think that this has is overall buff, because when you do go mega, oftentimes the enemy laner isn't fighting with you in general, because obviously you're in Mega, you know, you want to wait out Mega to fight him again. So insofar as you turn Mega, you're not really fighting that much, and you shouldn't worry about your health stat there anyway. If you're going Mega in a fight, you're kind of going to initiate, and then your Mega is going to wear off anyway, so you kind of retract back anyway. Overall, by being in Mini, you're going to get more health regen, and you're Mini way more in the lane than you are Mega, right? So if you're in Mini 90% of the time and Mega 10% of the time, you're going to be healing way more 90% of the time. And it's going to balance way towards the Mini healing. So I think that's a buff for Gnar, and I think Gnar is in a pretty solid state. Because if you look at the state of top laners again, it's pretty much just tanks top. And Gnar is effectively a tank top that's ranged, which puts him back into abusive territory. Because the only reason Gnar was abusive is because you kind of just like wrecked Scion and stuff like that. So MF damage up, ratio up, based on attack range. So now you can Q. No longer briefly pauses. Okay, so these are buffs to Misfortune, and I think these buffs to Misfortune come from the fact that lethality has seen a downshift, right? So lethality has dropped enough to where Jhin, Varus, MF was the trio, and now that Jhin and Varus are being not picked first competitively for, you know, in place of maybe some Sivers or some Caitlyn's or some Lucians, things like that. Lucian with the new Bork and stuff. And that puts Misfortune back in like 7th place or somewhere down there. So bringing Misfortune back up a little bit is okay in my book. Does she have problems? She's an okay pick in general. I don't think this is 100% necessary, but because I thought Misfortune was in an okay place, but I'm not opposed to it. Now it dies well and fall, now drops to a place rather than returning to where. This is pretty interesting because there are a lot of times when you would go for an initiation with the tank or with like a stealth champion, and then you'd be in the middle of them. And wow, my client just crashed. Okay. And you'd be like in the middle of their team, and then, you know, maybe Trinket or, you know, they would die and the ball would go back, and then you'd ult yourself by accident. So overall, sure. Harrier proc, bonus attack speed, okay. And this is a huge nerf. I think this is one of the biggest nerfs I've seen to Quinn, because Quinn is already a ranged AD champion that abuses blind, so you almost win a lot, pretty much every lane matchup anyway, because you're a ranged AD champion that beats other ranged AD champions. So you only really lose to all-ins, but this doesn't address that problem of Quinn, right? Quinn is still super abusive in the lane phase, but this addresses mid-game burst potential. So I feel like, and this is a pretty nice change just to be in Valor, but I feel like decreasing your total, it's not bonus, it's like total AD by 60%, you're not going to be able to one-shot lethal as much as you were before. You still might be able to, but you need another auto in there. So I think it's a justifiable nerf because mid-game Quinn movement was super strong, so she needs a weak point in the game, and you're not allowed to just auto win lane into just killing everyone on the map anymore. So I think it's a positive way of looking at the game. Cooldown refunded on Blight proc. 4 seconds scaling down to straight 4 seconds. Okay. And Warlords, this is pretty good for Warlords. Like I like to see restores health equal to total AD. This is more buff oriented towards the champions that did build lethality before, which is kind of interesting because champions that don't build AD as much, you know, that build the attack speed champion, that build the static, or like the Essence Reaver is AD, but that build the static and Essence Reaver, things like that, they're gonna benefit less from Warlords than, you know, the comparative champions that are going, I don't know, Youmu's. Few champions go Youmu's, but going Youmu's into IE or something like that. I've actually seen like Essence Reaver into IE as an answer to this, sort of, and it's not that bad, of course. It's attack procs Warlords, critically strikes a heal, crit as well, so this is kind of like balancing out the fact that, you know, it might overtune Youmu's edge players, is that the fact that if you crit, you're going to heal that amount. So I kind of feel like the build you're going to see now is potentially Essence into IE or IE into Essence, because that kind of solves both. It solves the total AD situation, and it solves the crit strike so that you can use Warlords efficiently. And IE first is a pretty strong build. You don't really concede lane because you're going BF pickaxe, and you can contest serrated Dark Laners by going that build. And the Essence Reaver second item just kind of transitions you to the 100% crit build. So I think that you should be seeing, I'm not sure if you'll see it, but I think that IE Essence or Essence IE, primarily IE Essence because I don't like to concede lane, although you don't necessarily concede lane by going Essence first if you do get a decent back timing for your BF, as opposed to just the pickaxe for the IE. But I feel like those two items interchangeably are stronger now, and the fact that this lifesteal is good and, works on minions. Warlord's back. Picks up some MR, pretty marginable. Blah blah blah. Rotating game modes. Weak client, blah blah blah. Bug fixes. Now fizzles on death when you're Q. Okay, Night Sound now heals properly when Forbidden Idol. Allow can no longer spam W to ignore. Okay. Fixes. No longer overrides for R. Fix. Toast a tree line. Teammates become invisible while hidden from parry. You still properly gain vision. Sure. Whatever, right? And these skins are pretty cool. So that's that, and just a brief overview of talking about GALIO. Next basic attack is periodically modified to deal extra damage. Total magic damage all around it is reduced by 4 seconds every time GALIO hits a new enemy champion with an ability. So, if we have to look at the static cooldown, which is 8, and so if we hit multiple people, it goes down to 4. In terms of lane phase, the only benefit would be sending him bot lane, but sending GALIO bot lane support as a melee support is pretty detrimental because you're going to lose out to Karma and all those other nice range supports that will abuse you in lane. So you're pretty much going to, the fact that this is go down by 4 isn't really going to affect the lane phase situation. It's only really going to affect the team fight situation. And it's going to do total damage based on 100% 80. So that's, well, it's 15 to 100 plus 100% 80. So let's say you're doing, 50 damage or 60 damage in team fight phase. So you're going to have some pretty good base damage coming out from that. 100% you're 80. So, I don't know. I mean, you could build like 80 GALIO for the memes on this, for sure. But this is a pretty good ratio. You'll probably be doing roughly 100 damage because you'll probably have roughly 100 AD. 40% AP, 40% bonus magic resist. So obviously GALIO is sticking to the status of counterpicking mages for bonus magic resist. And then you're going to deal it in total magic damage. So that's kind of interesting, and we'll talk about that as I go on. Cooldown 10 to 9. Mana cost is pretty obscenely high based on the fact that his small mana pool of 40 or 400, you're only going to have, 7, 8, 9 Qs level 1, so you're going to run out of mana relatively quickly if you do decide to spam. GALIO first 2 gusts of wind arc to either side, dealing magic damage upon impact. Gust forms a tornado that advances, doing magic damage to everyone within. Okay, so it hits around and then it hits the people inside. Gust of magic damage, pretty decent numbers. 35 up per point is pretty strong. 60 AP, not a bad AP ratio. Tornado magic damage per half second is percentage of AP plus 3% target max health. So obviously you're not going to build AP too much to get this 13% AP, but you're dealing 3% of target's max health. So you're more likely to be benefiting from laning against someone who's going to be building health. And people that build health are typically supports because of Sightstone and top laners. And obviously, if you're jungling, then I guess you could consider their max health kind of high. Total tornado magic damage 40% plus 9% max health. So same situation there. This is probably going to be your main wave clear tool. your main harass tool, all that good stuff. And I do want to emphasize that the 35 base damage up is pretty good, but the mana cost is pretty sufficient that you're not going to be able to kill anyone with it. GALIO gains a shield that absorbs, 50 mana at all levels, and 16 to 12. GALIO gains a shield that absorbs 8 to 23 based on level. Percentage max health damage. So again, max health damage, you're going to be doing better against tankier champions. And refreshing after taking damage for 12 seconds. First cast, GALIO begins to charge, slowing himself by 30%, reducing incoming damage and the taunt radius. So you've seen him, he kind of walks forward with the shield, but he kind of slows himself down. Damage reduction. And then you're gonna take 8% damage, less damage per 100 bonus magic resist. So if I have 100 magic resist, then you're gonna take 8% less damage. Second, GALIO taunts and refreshes the damage, and it's based on charge time. So if the first thing I want to note is that the only thing that the leveling this up does, it doesn't decrease its cost. It decreases its cooldown by 1, which is marginal at best. And it decreases or increases damage reduction from 20 to 40%. So I imagine you're going to be maxing this last a lot of the time because let's say at level 11 when you have your, or level 13, I mean, you're obviously maxing Q first, right? But your second skill max comes at level 13. And do you really want to max this at level 13 because you kind of don't care too much about the percentage of damage reduction, because at level 13 not everyone is capping out on the max amount of damage that they have. Whereas if you're maxing this last, the 40% from 20% means a lot more than at level 13 when they're dealing less damage. And obviously this is its main taunting ability. Walks forward, taunts people, CC bot in, but E and R are pretty much how he gets in. So if we look at this, GALIO briefly dashes backward before charging forward, hitting trainer enemy champion, and knocking them up for 0.75 seconds. So this is a stagnant 0.75 second. It's not going to increase or decrease the levels. And the magic damage is going to go up by 40. So this is a pretty decent amount of damage increase. And this is, so I imagine you max Q, then you max E, because the Q damage is good. The costs and cooldown for wave clear is good. And then you're probably going to max E because the 40 base damage increase is good. 70% AP is decent, and then the cooldown is pretty good, and you're probably going to max W last. So this is his main ability to get into the fight without having ultimate, but if we look at his ultimate, the range is going to increase per level, cooldown is going to decrease at a stagnant 100 mana cost. GALIO designates the target ally champion location at the time of cast, channels for 1 second, and dashes them, reducing the damage until he lands. Upon impact, GALIO deals magic damage to all nearby, knocking them off for 0.75 seconds, increase to 1.25 at the center of the impact zone. Ally damage reduction, so you're gonna let the ally reduce damage, kind of like a Knight's Vow effect, effectively a Knight's Vow effect, right? And your magic damage is going to be 150, 250, 350, and plus 70 AP. So this is the main way he initiates from outside the fight. And I kind of like this because it puts him at a top lane advantage, similar to the way that Talia has like a mid lane roam advantage, or TF has a mid lane roam advantage. I'll get into that. So I think that overall, if we look at how the combo works, it's going to be ults, knock them up for 0.5 seconds, probably cast your Q, and then knock him up again, and then go into the taunts. Although if you're getting hit by multiple people, you might go into the taunt a little bit earlier, but you should be building slightly tanky. So obviously to maximize the usage of GALIO, you want to put him in a lane where the opponent builds maximum health, or builds health to increase their maximum health, so that we get impact from Q landing. And we also want them to be building or have magic damage in their kit. So if we look at the state of that, I think GALIO is again, I already talked about why I wouldn't play him support in general, but you could situationally pick him as support against other melee supports. I wouldn't pick him against range supports because that's asking to lose the shove battle. But up against some other melee supports, such as situational Braum picks or situational Tom Kench picks, I think that you can have a pretty good time because they'll be building Sightstone, which is health. Maybe even situationally against Ezreal or AD carries that'll build Triforce, because they'll pick up some extra health there as well, and that'll increase your max health damage when they pick up the health from the phage. So ideally, if you're going to pick him bot lane, you're probably going to want to pick him up against Ezreal, because you kind of want to be able to CC the Ezreal because it's the shifty champion, and you kind of answer back that, and maybe up against Tahm Kench, up against Braum, up against Alistar, these champions that are gonna be building tank and gonna have that max health, and gonna be doing some marginal magic damage, so that you get some impact from this. The fact that you're gonna be, your auto's gonna do you 40% bonus magic resist, and then your build path is probably gonna be Relic Shield, Sidestone into probably Redemption or Locket, with the Locket giving you the magic resistance. But overall, I expect him to be seen in top lane more because it hard answers top lane AP tanks as a counter pick. If we look at the state of top lane tanks in competitive right now, we're looking at Nautilus, we're looking at Scion, we're looking at Maokai, right? So Nautilus, Maokai, Scion, all these AP champions, so we do want to build MR against them, and they do build max health. So it's a clear answer to the top lane scenario if you're looking for a tank buster, or a tank that's going to be more efficient than other tanks in terms of being able to make use of the max health and the magic resist efficiency. And then you also have an edge against Maokai, Nautilus, Scion, maybe not Scion necessarily, because what you want to look for in top laners is the ability to go to a fight first, because after top laner shove, they're either going to roam to the fight first, and then you have first roam initiative by using your ultimate. Similar to the way that Tahm Kench is picked for his global initiative, Talia picks up steam because of her global initiative, and now GALIO might pick up that steam. And also, if both TPUs are down, then you can still somewhat access the bottom lane scenario, because if you do have your ultimate up on GALIO, then you can kind of get to the Baron situation. For all those reasons, I look at it as a counter pick to Maokai, Scion, blah blah blah. And in terms of the jungle, I've heard that you have decent jungle clear. It looks like you have decent jungle clear, but you might need to pick up blue. And the way you're going to build is probably going to be more on the tanky side, probably more on the Cinderhulk side. So Cinderhulk into MR, Cinderhulk with you don't really have vamp mechanics, so you wouldn't really go Spirit Visage. Maybe you'll pick up the Abyssal Scepter and play a more team-oriented style, but you would like to build health, right? Because you're going Cinderhulk, you want your item after Cinderhulk to pick up some health, while also building MR for this. So if you're going to do that, you have to think, what item can do that? What item gives me health and MR? That's not Spirit Visage. And you come to the conclusion that it's pretty much only Banshee's Veil, which isn't that great as a second item. So that's why I don't see him being picked up in the jungle, because you don't really have a really good build that you can go to make use of Cinderhulk, because health MR items, like, you would have to build them separately, right? You would build Abyssal and, I don't know, some health item. Or you would go Ohmwrecker or Portal, not Ohmwrecker, Portal, or something like that. You'd be building into these awkward items that don't really maximize the usage of GALIO in his MR status and HP Cinderhulk status. Now, if you do want to play AP GALIO, that's fine, but then you're not making usage of the MR anyway, so there's no reason to really talk about. You're losing efficiency on the MR side. So for all those reasons, I think that it's primarily a top lane counter pick to AP tanks, as well as a bot lane counter pick to melee. Not counter pick, but a pick that you can do into other melee supports that do AP damage, such as Tahm Kench, Braum, Alistar, and you'll get some extra added value when you're playing up against, I don't know, if Corki AD ever comes back, or if Corki bot ever comes back, then you're going to do well against the Triforce, because you're going to be doing the max health damage, and they're going to be doing magic damage. If they do pick Ziggs bottom with maybe Tahm Kench or something, this is a pretty good counter to that, because you'll be opting into the MR building, going for the Locket second. You'll be getting some added value from the MR against Ziggs, Tahm Kench, or Ziggs melee champion, and up against Ezreal as well, because Triforce builder means you're going to be building health, and against their health you're going to be doing more damage against their max HP. So that's all I got. Thank you guys for watching the patch review video. If you like it, feel free to follow or subscribe here on YouTube, Chinese Jester. Follow on Facebook, Law Chinese Jester. Follow on Twitch, Law Chinese Jester, and follow on Twitter, Law You Matter. Thank you for watching.